is. Sean, take it away.
Thank you. So I was working on really what an appropriate title for my presentation today would be, and settled on improving the analog to digital exchange rate. I think everybody here has hopefully heard of that old adage, taking analog dollars, converting it to digital pennies, and maybe we're back up to dimes, right? Ultimately, what we really want to be able to build is a more profitable online video ecosystem. And we actually, at Ooyala, think there's a few really key ways of doing that. For a little bit of background, we're about a 5.5-year-old company. As of actually earlier on today, have raised nearly $80 million of funding, not just from traditional venture capital out of California, but also from large companies like Panasonic, Motorola, and even large cable operators like Telstra. We have offices around the world, and more importantly, reach about 200 million unique users on a monthly basis across our publisher set. And this amounts, for example, in the US, to about 1/4 of all online video viewers. We have a large number of customers, everybody from Bloomberg to ESPN, Le Monde to Telegraph, and as we look across the entire customer base, pretty much everybody has the general consensus that video is actually not dead. I'm not going to be one of the tech guys that comes up here and says video is dead, it's going away, we're going to kill video. In fact, it's just evolving. And I think that's a really key component to actually identify here, in that it's not going away, it's changing. And in fact, it's actually accelerating. There's some pretty phenomenal opportunities as part of this evolution. And as we see it, there's a huge land grab going on for the consumer right now. And that's happening in the online world. Now, what's even more exciting is that revenue is actually following these users. And there's some inflection point somewhere down the road. Some people think it's 2020. We like to think it's probably 2015 to 2016, which is we will ultimately be driving more revenue from online than we do from traditional broadcast. But the big question is really how we do that. Traditional online video largely focused on cats doing backflips or user-generated content. And I think as we're already seeing that that's changing significantly. There's entirely new companies like Machinima who are doing a phenomenal job of leveraging this new medium. But there's also existing content, premium content, and long-form content that's moving online and monetizing incredibly well. And we do a quick little breakdown of where a lot of the video consumption is happening online. It's not like it was 5 years ago. It's actually an incredibly diverse landscape today. What we're finding is that YouTube is actually less than 1/3 of all online video consumption, and that makes it less than 3% of all video consumed worldwide. And that helps put things in perspective, especially as the market and economy grows here. We're seeing long-form content catch up. Premium content is actually dominating more and more of online eyeballs, essentially as content changes screens. Even more importantly, it's monetizing much better. And that's one of the areas that I really want to focus on with everybody is how do we help facilitate this better monetization going into the online landscape? So as we look at it, online video, fundamentally, the form of content we change over time we consume over time doesn't change all that much. We watch mid and long form content. We always have and we always will. And this will be the majority of what our eyeballs spend their time consuming. The medium, the screen through which we consume content does change radically. And that's really the big opportunity here. But the theorem that this generally lends us to is there is no online video market. There's simply a radically changing existing video ecosystem that's looking for new screens and new engagement models that utilize the new affordances of that medium. So what does it take to actually be successful here? What we look at is there's more than the classic management and reach. These are two of the very fundamental needs. There's more than that. There's actual monetization strategy, and these three have a very tight interdependency that we haven't actually seen many publishers fully utilize today. The fact that most people take content and try and reproduce the TV experience online is a big missed opportunity. And those we see that are monetizing the most successfully are ones that are more personalizing that experience. And the way that they're able to do this is they're leveraging the fact that online, it's not a one-to-many, it's a one-to-one. We have a conversation with each and every single consumer, and it's an immediate feedback loop. We get to personalize that experience and learn instantaneously how they're responding to that. And that's a huge opportunity, something that the broadcast model has never afforded us. So I want to walk you through quickly what we see a few of our customers doing, Bloomberg being one of them. First, on the management side, they've done a fantastic job. It's a fully integrated solution with a lot of Ooyala's technology. It pulls out of their broadcast system. They're able to produce both live and VOD content. They've also done an incredible job of getting multi-device distribution. And if anybody hasn't downloaded the Bloomberg iOS app, highly recommended. One of the few apps we see that's doing video online today that not only lets you do live content and VOD content, it actually lets you download that content and keep it forever, something that most people haven't actually tapped into today. In addition, they've used a lot of analytics to help inform their online monetization strategy. How many ads, where should they put, at what load and frequency, to maintain the appropriate level of user retention and monetization. If we look at another customer, Miramax. Miramax has a number of really popular long-form content, everything from Good Will Hunting to Pulp Fiction. And what we've done with them is actually put 100 of their long-form content, their traditional movies, online. We actually made it available on Facebook. On top of that, we help them reach content or consumers across all screens, whether it was iOS, Google TV, any device that was capable of streaming content, we actually helped them reach. Now, on the monetization side, this is where they really started to get creative. First, they use Facebook credits. So rather than actually going and paying with a credit card per se, I'm able to go and pay with the same Facebook credits that I used to go play video games, for example. And this has been incredibly impactful. Moreover, they've actually done paywall optimization, where rather than always letting you watch, say, 2 minutes of a piece of content before you ask a user to convert, they actually have variable lengths of content. The trailers and the previews are all different lengths, and they're actually picking the appropriate lengths to maximize the overall conversion rate. The last customer that I want to hit on, and this is where I think it starts to get even more exciting as they're further into the future of what we see, is ESPN. ESPN's not only publishing over 100 clips of video content a day, but they're doing it multi-device, multi-format, whether it's video, audio, they're publishing across platforms. But on the monetization side, they're doing something that's really unique that we see very few people do. First, they ensure that they had a fast player. And nobody should underscore the fact that this is incredibly important. The fact that they have their player experience on the start screen, on their homepage, is key and critical. In the TV world, things just work. They start immediately. In the online world, things can't be slow, right? We learned from Google and Amazon that site speed and performance really does slow things down and really does cost consumers or customers revenue. And that was absolutely the case with ESPN. So we gave them a really fast player. But the true innovation, what we've seen, is around what they're doing around the linear playback experience. And this really starts to tap into what we ultimately see as the potential for online, which is I shouldn't have to pick between one of, say, 100 linear channels. Rather, I should be able to pick from one. It should be a personalized linear channel. And there should be 1 billion of them out there for each and every single consumer. And what they've been able to do is actually provide this linear experience in an online world where I can simply lean back, be entertained and engaged, but still have the option of actually choosing some of my own adventures, so to speak. I can pick content and I can steer it, but if I simply lean back, they utilize my consumption data and my patterns to recommend content unique to me so that I get a highly engaging experience, ultimately watching content longer and monetizing more successfully. And this really starts to work towards what we see as the ultimate future of online video. It really is around being able to personalize every screen. And in doing so, this is where we're actually able to tap into and utilize that full potential of that one-to-one engagement with each and every single consumer. And with that, I'm done. One of the few that finished ahead of time that I may have had.
Wow! I was looking at the countdown. I'm like, you're done. Let's pop over here as we get ready for the next one. You know what really, the one figure that really jumped out at me was that YouTube, only 2.7% of all video.
Right, and I think it's clearly they're the 800-pound gorilla in online video. And they've actually, prior to this year, had an even larger percentage of online video. But it underscores the fact that, especially in Silicon Valley, as we constantly think, online video is taking over, it's killing TV, it's still less than 10%. So nobody should be confused by the fact that we're still a long ways away. And what actually is going to unlock the opportunity here is how we better monetize content so that we get those digital dimes back up to digital dollars and help facilitate the transfer of premium content from the broadcast and offline world back online.
You know, I built a whole company based on this, but that's another story. I don't want to promote myself. Let's talk about the streams. When I was at Juiced, we were working at about 15, 17, everyone was working around 15, 17 cents a stream, right?
Right.
That sort of thing. Now, I know that that's dropped. How, why aren't people using more of the BitTorrent peer-to-peer, those sharing systems that are low on bandwidth, they don't take up a ton, right? They can be used on the back end, and to drive these prices down, because it seems that even though YouTube has all of this traffic, they're still not making a ton of money off this stuff yet. I mean, they're starting to make some, but it's not massive. Right. So this 15 cents, where are we at now in the streaming world in general?
As we look across the market, depending on your volume and scale, you can get CDN all the way down under 3-4 cents a gig if you do large amounts of distribution. Right. But ultimately, and this is where we're really trying to get the industry to focus on, it's not just about cost. For the early years, all everybody focused on was cost, and as no surprise, nobody was actually generating more revenue. And ultimately, that's where it really comes down to is how do we focus not just on reducing cost, but the ability to monetize premium content successfully online far exceeds the cost. I mean, we're talking incredible margins, but we have to get the industry focused on that part of the business.
There seems to be a huge disconnect with the advertising agency and what's going on online, but that's a whole different story. We don't get it. Anyone here from advertising? See? Oh, one.
Oh, there we go, one.
You. I want to talk to you first. Okay, listen, any questions from the audience quickly for Sean? Anyone? Is anyone? Yes, Kate. Let me just come down with the mic for you.
Hi, Sean. Kate Bulkley, journalist from the UK. You said that premium content is catching up with growth rates at 3 to 4 times that of UGC. So are we really moving into a world where people are going to pay for content online? And is that going to get rid of this whole issue about having to do the advertising bit online? Or are they going together? In other words, talk about those two.
It's a good question. We're never going to get rid of advertising, and we're never going to get rid of pay-per-view or subscription entirely. There will be different business models that match the appropriate type of content. What we are seeing in the online world, you do start to get a segmentation between the distribution medium and the service provider layer, which is creating more competition. Consumers' willingness to pay for content actually goes down over time, which does put a higher premium on being able to better monetize that experience, whether it's a more personal experience, whether it's a higher CPM experience. But we don't expect either business model to go away. The 90% plus of the existing market is still held by companies like Telstra, MSOs, cable operators. And the way they're moving in the online world, they're not going to go a pay-per-view model. They're still going to maintain the exact same business model. Some of the revenue attribution may change a little bit, but it's still the same business model, and they're simply moving that content online.
Let's talk quickly. I know they're still trying to work out something with the computer there, and we have got you online on stage now. Let's talk quickly about Hulu. Everyone talks about YouTube because it's this giant behemoth. They do 2 billion views a day. The second biggest search engine. They've got all the big words. But when I talk to people and I hear some really interesting stuff, they are making literally millions of dollars a year off their Hulu content. Mm-hmm. And it's not just 1 or 2 content providers I talk to. I talk to lots of them. So if we've got lots of people out there that are dealing with this type of distribution model, what's your advice to them? If they're going to do a distribution model, should they put it everywhere? Should they put their content everywhere? Or should they focus their real premium content onto a sort of a Hulu space?
So what we're finding is content owners and creators are distributing their content everywhere, right? As I mentioned before, we are getting a fragmented space to a certain extent with distribution mediums. And the appropriate strategy, Miramax, for example, the week prior to launching their Facebook app, they signed a deal with Netflix. And the ultimate goal is to get your content to where all the consumers are. And that, I think, is the appropriate strategy for content creators.
Then why are so many people still keeping it behind the walled garden?
I think what you find is a lot of publishers of content, cable operators and MSOs, for example, right? They're using this to drive their existing business model. And a recent customer that we announced called Pac-12. They're a large, brand new network for college sports in the U.S. What they're doing is they're actually locking their content behind, again, cable operator logins. But even though they distribute their content online, you have to log in with a Comcast or a Time Warner for a certain piece of content. Largely as that's part of their larger licensing deals. Right. The thing to remember, right, and these are public numbers, Comcast pays ESPN, I think, to the extent of $6 a month a subscriber. Right. These are large, large deals. That's more revenue, I think, than Netflix's entirety. And we still need to remember that the largest deals and the largest paychecks are coming from the existing part of the industry.
Right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's a round of
applause
for Sean.